Mr. Martin?
Yeah, I'd like to seek recognition and strike the requisite number of words.
Gentleman's recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank the gentleman from Utah for his efforts here. I would also like to thank Mr. Green for his efforts. I will point out, if you really want to help refiners, because you're not having a special exemption for some of the tailpipe emissions, the refiner allowance program needs to be 44%. So you're at 2%. Mr. Matheson wants to go to 3%. If you really want to hold harmless the motorists of America, you ought to put 44%. The problem, if you do that, you go over 100% in terms of free allowances, which is a problem even for this new Democrat majority. So, 2%, 3%.
Gentleman, yield to me?
I'd be happy to yield.
I disagree with the gentleman's statement, but I really, at this late hour, I really don't want to go into all the debate about it, but I'd be happy to discuss with you further why I don't think your argument would be justified, and your suggestion would be justified. But I'll accept the fact that we might have a disagreement about it, but I think if we had an opportunity to talk it over, you could see our point of view.
I would certainly listen, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you. Gentleman yields back. Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like this opportunity, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to enter into a colloquy with you regarding emission allowances. I know you've been waiting for this with bated CO2 breath. The local distribution companies bringing new plants online in the next few years. I don't think members understand that there may be as many as 10 just on this side of the aisle that would be impacted. But there would be consequences because of the timing of getting the permit, the license, the construction, and when they would come online. The original draft inadvertently left these facilities out of the calculation for allowances, and several local distribution companies would have faced a situation whereby they would have had to purchase significantly more allowances from day one under the rules of this bill, instead of being covered by the LDC allocation presently described in the bill. In the case of San Antonio, the municipally owned LDC would have had to raise rates to cover the additional cost to deliver electricity to meet the basic need that would have diluted the consumer protections that were incorporated into the bill. While I agree with the goals of the legislation, that is to reduce CO2 emission, I do not believe it would be fair if those local utilities, which are adding capacity in the immediate future to meet their baseload needs, would have to begin at a disadvantage. In comparison to other electricity LDCs, the only difference is that their additional facility won't come online by the date of this legislation, despite the financial investment having been made, the permitting process having been completed, and the construction being underway. The amendment, in the nature of a substitute, does include language to address the concerns of these local distribution companies which have facilities coming online after 2009, but not later than 2012. However, it is in need of a correction to properly determine how to calculate those emissions for plants having less than 3 years of operation. The proposed fix in the bill we are about to vote on today is a very strong first step in that direction, but I would hope that I would have the commitment from the chairman that we will continue to work to address the deficiency in the language as it exists.
If the gentleman would permit, I thank you for raising this issue. Our staffs have worked together on it, and I want to assure you that we'll continue to work together as the process moves forward. You've raised an issue of great concern.
Thank you very much, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Who seeks Mr. Rush? Mr. Dingell.
Mr. Chairman, I want to compliment you for the way that you've handled this and express my thanks to you for the fair way in which you have considered the concerns of the members and think that we have basically a good bill. I do want to make just one small remark, and I hope my friend Mr. Engel is around here because I want him to hear what I have to say. I have great respect for him, and he's a fine member and a good friend. He wants to use our imported, to use flex fuels instead of imported oil. So do I. But there's language in the statement of managers which I find to be most curious. First of all, it requires, or rather allows, the Secretary of Energy to mandate light-duty vehicles to be flex fuel vehicles. But understand, not all flex fuels, but only E85 and M85. Now, M85 is an interesting fuel because its major component is methyl alcohol, which is made by burning coal. It is also interesting that this wonderful substance, it happens to be a deadly toxic substance which can impair the health of people simply by falling on the skin of the individual concerned. Now, it's particularly interesting because although we've been trying to stimulate the production of alternative fuels and flex fuels, we find that E85 is available in less than 1% of all fuel stations in the country. And we've had hearings in this committee on this matter under my chairmanship to try and see that we did something about this. Now, we find, however, the fuel is not available in quantities enough to meet the current demand, let alone any future demand that might be anticipated. Congress mandated, as you will recall, 36 billion gallons of renewable fuels to be produced by 2022. But even assuming that the RFS of 36 billion gallons can be met, this will still just represent 20% of the total gasoline fuel, and half of 20% will be E10. Where the fuel for these flex vehicles will come from, nobody knows. The fuel infrastructure isn't there to justify these mandates and the cost of industry to industry and consumers. Now, it should be noted that the cost of this is relatively minor. It costs another $100 to $200 a car. Well, we're going to have a lot then of cars for which consumers are going to be paying an extra $100 or $200 and driving around the country hunting for places where they could put in the flex fuels which the car is capable of using. This will, of course, also require significant subsidies from the taxpayers. Having said this, it should be noted that we are not going to have the flex fuels available at any time in the foreseeable future. So this is a total error in that we have gone about creating a lot of cars for which there will be no fuel. It's my hope that somebody around here will realize that this is not a good thing to do, and that we will set about then doing something which will make sense, and that is, instead of stimulating the productions of cars which can't find a useful fuel, that they will then set about creating a useful fuel for which we have right now too many cars to properly fuel the fuels, or rather to fuel the vehicles. Now, again, I respect my colleague, Mr. Engel, and his goal is a desirable one, but his mechanism for achieving it is an erroneous one. And if we intend to do something here about addressing the problem that we confront with regard to global warming and loading the atmosphere with carbon, this portion of the amendment is not the right way to address it. So I will perhaps be filing a minority view on this, and I will be working between now and the time we get on the floor to find a more rational way of addressing this situation. And I will look forward to working with you and hopefully with Mr. Engel to achieve some kind of a sensible or a conclusion to what is a work of great enthusiasm, but rather diminished effectiveness. And I thank you, and I yield back the balance.
Would Mr. Dingell yield?
Certainly, I'll be glad to.
Thank you.
Maybe
thank
you can
you.
explain why I have to be concerned about these things.
Well, I thank you.
You've got a fine amendment; it just doesn't work.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad that we have an opportunity to discuss this, and I certainly respect your concerns, and I certainly take them very, very seriously. But I have concerns as well. I am concerned that the United States of America for too long has been addicted to oil, to foreign oil, and I believe with all my heart that the only way that we can wean ourselves off of Middle Eastern and foreign oil is to make this country energy independent. I think that this...
If the gentleman would permit me to make an observation.
Certainly.
He's requiring the manufacture of large numbers of automobiles, or potentially large numbers of automobiles, but there is no fuel available for those vehicles.
Well,
this is a most curious thing. If my good friend wants to address this problem, let's address the fuel and the supply side as opposed to addressing this other matter in this other curious way.
Will the gentleman yield?
What the gentleman has done has been to create a situation where there's going to be all of these flex fuel vehicles driving around looking for a place that they can get flex fuel. He's done nothing to address the supply side.
Well, if the gentleman will yield back to me, perhaps I can...
The gentleman's time has expired. I want to yield 2 minutes to Mr. Engel, and then I want to yield time to Mr. Barton, and then I think we've just got to move on, folks. So, Mr. Engel is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's hard to do this in 2 minutes, but I'll try my best. I visited a country like Brazil, which every car manufactured in Brazil was a flex fuel car. And when you drive into a gasoline station in Brazil, you can get ethanol, methanol, or gasoline. I believe it creates competition, and I believe that's very important. I also believe, to Chairman Dingell's point, is that it becomes a catch-22. If you don't have the vehicles that will use this kind of fuel, then you won't have the fuel. I believe if you build the vehicles, you will then get the fuel. I also believe very strongly that it would cost $90 or $100 at most per car to do this. And I think that's a very small price to pay to make us energy independent. While we are moving to solar and wind and all those other things, we cannot get from step 1 to step 10 overnight, and I think this gives us another vehicle. If we're talking about plug-in electric vehicles, they can be flex fuel as well. So when the President of the United States, and I commend him, announces that for $1,300 more a car, he's going to increase CAFE standards, which I applaud, I think for $90 to $100 a car, we could do this in America and make every car flex fuel. And frankly, I am perplexed why the automobile industry is lobbying so heavily against this. Maybe they ought to get into the real world and understand that the reason why people aren't buying cars is because they're not doing the kinds of things that the American public wants, and they've resisted these changes for years and years. They thankfully have stopped resisting the change towards better CAFE standards with the president, but they're still resisting these changes with lobbyists and everything else here trying to block it. I think that what we want in this country is energy independence, and I think that flex fuel cars are one of the ways to go. And frankly, I would be delighted to work with Chairman Dingell on a way to make this happen, whether it's on the supply side with the fuel or whether it's making more vehicles. But we have to do this, and this language, I think, is a small step in that direction. We need to go even further, and I would hope that we can go further before the time the bill hits the floor of the House for us to vote on it. And I thank Chairman Waxman for being generous with his time.
Gentleman's time has expired. Mr. Barton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. It's good to see Democratic unity on display in the committee. It does show, and I mean this seriously, I don't appreciate the work product, but I do appreciate the work effort that you and Mr. Markey have exhibited in bringing the bill this far. It is truly remarkable to see what y'all have been able to accomplish. But I want to encourage my good friend from Michigan. He can do more than file a minority report. He can vote with me against the bill. And if he can bring Mr. Stupak and a few others, we can start over. And I guarantee my friend from Michigan, we can make him very, very happy. With that, I want to yield to Mr. Shimkus.
Thank you. And I had promised not to speak, but of course the renewable fuels debate compels me because of what we said before. This is a debate that should have been in a manager's amendment. Elliot Engel is right. In this Congress, under Republican leadership and under Democrat leadership, have pushed renewable fuels. You are part of this now acceptance of renewable fuels as being an option in the liquid fuel debate. You have accepted this baby. Now you have to help nurture it. To cut it off before it's entered grade school would be a great disservice. In my district, I can get from, and I represent parts of 30 counties in southern Illinois, I can fill up continuously with E85. I've had E85 vehicles 3 different congressional terms. This is the only thing we've done to reduce our reliance on imported crude oil, renewable fuels. And this cost to the manufacturers is so small that it's crazy not to have choices. It's just crazy. So I'm really taking offense at what the Chairman Emeritus has done, and Elliot, I'm with you, buddy. Let's fight it.
Before we get into a fight, let me move on to another subject, but I want to say to all my colleagues that we have difference of opinion. I don't want to get corny about it, but we all want the same goals, and we have to work together. Get the pun, corny? Anyway,
all right.
Mr. Rush?
You're no Ed Markey, Mr.
You're right. Mr. Rush.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, when we started this markup, in my opening statement, I said that this was a good bill, and after 3 days, I still believe that it's a great bill. I think the bill would have been even much greater had I been able to overcome some of the jurisdictional barriers with the Ed Labor Committee, because had I been able to successfully overcome those arguments, then I would have offered an amendment that would have covered construction projects funded or assisted by this by the underlying bill, and my amendment would have provided a unique opportunity to target quality green jobs and training programs and opportunities to low-income and underrepresented workers, communities who traditionally have been left out of the opportunities to share in our nation's prosperity. Mr. Chairman, without strong requirements, low-road contractors could predominate on projects covered under this act, and they possibly would fail to provide job training, and they would squander a chance to build middle-class construction careers in a new green economy that works for all of us. States and cities have pioneered the use of targeted hiring and apprenticeship requirements on public-funded construction projects all across this country. They've demonstrated some of the best practices for ensuring job quality and equitable access to employment and training opportunities. And Mr. Chairman, my proposal was supported by a broad coalition of advocates for green jobs, for workers' rights, for job training and economic justice, including Green for All, the National Employment Law Project, the Partnership for Working Families, the Center for Community Change, and the Campaign for Community Values, and the Transportation Equity Network, and many, many others. The principles reflected in my proposal resulted from many months of discussions with key stakeholders, including the Building and Construction Trades Department of the AFL-CIO. The proposed language would have targeted jobs to low-income local workers. Contractors would have had to ensure that a percentage of project work hours are worked by either low-income local workers or by women, and the minimum percentages would have ranged from 10% with a goal of at least 30%. It would have also ensured quality job training opportunities where certified apprenticeship programs were located near a project, and contractors would have had to maximize the use of registered apprentices. And this would have generated quality job training opportunities and promoted use of high-road contractors. Lastly, Mr. Chairman, my proposal would have supported quality pre-apprenticeship training programs, and 1% of each project's funds would have been dedicated to pre-apprenticeship training programs that would have a strong record of training low-income workers. And these programs would have helped to provide pathways into long-term middle-class construction careers and ensure a pipeline of workers ready to step into new apprenticeship positions. And Mr. Chairman, this is an issue that won't go away. It's extremely important to me and to my district. And Mr. Chairman, I look forward to working with you to address this matter, these issues, before the bill comes to the House floor. And with that, I yield back the balance.
Well, gentlemen, yield just to me to acknowledge that you've made a very powerful point. And we want jobs, and we want to make sure we get them to a lot of the people who need them the most. And while what you wanted to do was so worthwhile, and I think would have had strong bipartisan support, it's not within the jurisdiction of our committee. But I'm going to work with you and our colleagues on the other committees and see if we can make this happen. And I want to commend you for your compassion and your concern and your commitment to the working people and the people who want to be working people in this country. Thank you very much.